Good afternoon, everybody. In the light of it being election year and the fact that I'm taking once again another leadership course, I was reflecting earlier and I thought I'd do a video on leadership. My current book that I'm using in my course is Intro to Leadership, 5th edition by Peter Northouse. So he was able to identify 5 aspects to leadership, which include number 1, that leadership is a trait. Number 2, leadership's an ability. Number 3, leadership is a skill. Number 4, leadership is a relationship. And number 5, leadership is an influential process. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So as far as leadership being a trait, it basically looks at, what do people bring to the table? What traits and qualities do they bring that makes them unique? I'm a firm believer that everybody has unique gifts that were given to us, no matter what faith, universe, whatever, biology, evolution, whatever you believe, that we were instilled with a sense of passion, purpose, and specific gifts that it's up to us to discover and explore and share with the world. They talk about in this book a quote that says, leaders are born, not made. This kind of goes back to the way I feel like, sometimes I feel like in general, I know myself included, have been so focused on the outside world and what everybody else is doing, how they're affecting me and all of this, that I'm not taking the time to reflect internally as much. Obviously, as you all that know me, I've been on a 13 or 14 year journey inward to, just confront, consider, change specific aspects within myself internally. But I do feel like, with that quote that leaders are born, not made, I do feel like it's up to us to explore internally and find those gifts. And I feel like when we find those gifts, they immediately lead to abundance, because this is something that we're loving to do, we're purposeful, and we are putting that out into the world. And that's how my view on leadership and, and being able to share those gifts with the world. Now, the number 2, that leadership is an ability. He talks about natural as well as acquired abilities. Now, natural abilities, obviously, I'm sure we've all met them, pianists that are like prodigies at age 4, or those that get on the drums and they just jam out and they're like 3, or, swimmers even, or, specific autistic people that I've seen that have been able to paint, whole pictures based on memory of a 3-second memory. We can all agree that these are innate gifts, right? So, I do think that those are natural gifts that are given to us. We don't, whether it's, through whatever higher mean purpose or through our parents or whatever that belief is. Now, there's also acquired abilities, right? So obviously we can teach, mentor, all that great stuff to help explore. And that is why I'm a big fan of Big Brothers Big Sisters. They introduce these kids to new ideas, new skills, hobbies, and things like that. And you only know what you know, right? So if you're not around people or around other experiences, you're having a very shelter and limited view on the world, and that limits these children's ability to be able to find that innate purpose, something that goes beyond themselves, that they're passionate about, that can keep them out of trouble and do things like that. So we definitely know that there is, again, that natural and as well as acquired abilities. Now, there's a quote within this section that says, can you do the right thing under pressure, right? So, it's real easy to say, and set guidelines and say, I'm going to do this and that. But when you're presented with financial issues or, aspects, maybe a child custody case, are you able to lead with that same way that you would if things were going good or bad? This goes back to a quote that I love by Dr. Wayne Dyer, which is one of my prodigies. He talks about the whole orange juice metaphor, right? So he says, when you go to squeeze an orange, are you going to get lemon juice? No. And why not? Because it's an orange. It's not a lemon, right? And the same thing goes for people, right? So when people put pressure on us or are mean, or we don't feel like they're fitting in what we view within our minds of what should be and whatnot, that doesn't give us reason to act out in mean, greedy, hateful, aggressive behaviors. We have to, even under pressure, still continue to show that love and compassion toward others. So, number 3, a skill. Leadership is a skill. So obviously with skills comes competency, right? So do you have the means, the methods to lead? This does include accomplishing things effectively. Again, this refers back to, can you accomplish your goals and handle the tasks? And can you also do it while doing the right thing, right? That's, in many, as well as major ways, everybody's presented with these opportunities, and we have those decisions to make. So making sure that you're doing the right thing with the right motivations and, and trying to carry out those tasks and skills. Also, as far as a skill, doesn't matter what skill you have, everything is a team effort. It doesn't matter if you're in a family, it doesn't matter if you're in an organization, in a community group, or just society as a whole, right? This is a team effort, it takes a village to raise a child, right? So everybody has to, do their part. And, and I do feel like everybody has a part to do and a part to give. That also goes back to my view that I feel like we're all leaders in our own sense, and I think it's important to recognize that, no leader is a leader all the time and no follower is a follower all the time, Of course, confidence does play into that, and that's something, you can very, very easily work with, both internally as well as, with other people, or as a teacher, mentor, counselor, to help people gain that confidence, right? So, number 4, a relationship. Leadership's a relationship. Relationships include collaboration. Again, understanding that you're going to be both a leader and a follower depending on the situations. And as far as a relationship, authority as well as influence should be shared within the organizations between the leaders and followers, right? That's important. When you feel a part of something and you know that you're united on a purposeful outward vision, it's much easier to create buy-in, especially when you have those caring, trusting relationships. And that's only done through integrity, honesty, admitting nobody's perfect. We all got our shadows. We all got our good, bad, light, dark, all of that. So, it's important to be able to recognize that, be humble, and just realize and work on ourselves, right? So as far as a relationship, a leader needs to be aware of their followers' interests, ideas, positions, as well as attitudes and motivations, right? Leaders within any kind of group or organizations does have a huge impact and influence on their group or, or followers, and vice versa, right? So I think it's important to understand and get to know your team members and the people that you're serving, helping, working with, whatever that may mean to you, because that way when you understand, people's attitudes and motivations towards certain things, it helps put in their behaviors and actions into a lot more perspective, which is really can be very eye-opening. This goes along the lines of civic engagement, right? So just engaging. I love community policing. I'm a big, huge fan of it because it gets them out there, get these officers out to these schools and these, juvenile group homes and shoot some hoops. Or, there's this video on YouTube and Facebook of this officer getting out there and breakdancing, man, and he tore it up, and the kids were loving it. But I love that. And I also love SRO officers. They can play a really important role. And I know the one at the school that I used to work at Meade, she was freaking spectacular. So they can make a huge difference, right? We're all in this and working together. And lastly, leadership is an influential process, right? Obviously, it's ongoing. Groups change, people come, go, leave, new policies, new things come about, new technology, and things are always changing, right? So we need to make sure that that we're all influencing one another to achieve a common goal, and that common goal isn't a specific bottom line anything. That is a common goal that we're going to do better and be better as people, and we're going to try to consider others as well. Without working together, we're not going to accomplish anything. And I think, especially between the Democratic and Republican parties right now, and it being election time, people are very one or, and that's pretty scary because we can't do anything unless we're working together. Personally, I would like to put them both as president, make them work together, figure it out, sit down, get over your whatever, and figure it out together, because the truth and reality is most likely somewhere in the middle anyways. So it's also, as well as the influential process, conscious self-awareness of one's different traits are really important as a leader, right? So knowing and understanding your own beliefs, your values, attitudes towards certain things. If you have a negative attitude towards something, that's usually a sign that I need to do some inner work and figure out why I have that internal negative attitude about something, right? Being aware of your emotions. Definitely want to be self-aware, because we know from emotional intelligence, right, that nonverbals, verbals, ways of communicating by one strong leader can go into a room and completely change that climate within that room. Now, I know me personally, working in the juvenile level 4 juvenile placement with at-risk youth in West Virginia, it could go either way, right? So sometimes we'd have a really great cabin with 10 girls or boys in there, and sometimes we'd get one that would roll in and they would be off the hook, and the climate in the entire cabin would change, right? So being able to recognize that. And also, for positive influencers, know when we're weak, because when we're weak, we need our other positive people, right, to band together and really keep the motivation going. Conscious mindfulness, right? Turning off the thoughts and being present. If you're not present when you're engaging with people or trying to understand people, communities, what's going on in problems, if you're not present, that means you're in your mind, which means you're not paying attention to what is right in front of you. And how can you really do all that change without, addressing that, right? Introspection, very, very important. A journal, I think that's really important. Therapy, whatever that may mean to you. As well as continuous reflection, reevaluation, and dedication to change. As leaders, we get older, people get older, times change. Again, a lot of outside factors come into play. So, we need to be aware of this. And, sometimes an organization or a group could be, 1 month be doing amazing and working together really cohesively, and then all of a sudden stuff can get in an uproar, right? And so that's where that relationship does play into, because as a leader, you want people to know that they can come and talk to you. You're not going to judge them, and you're there with good intentions of really just wanting to make things better. I feel like no matter what, I've always been pretty good in a mediation role, whether it was, within a prison counselor, whether it was working with kids, whether working in a placement or in a group homes, or, whatever that may be, is just knowing them and being calm and listening and understanding, and bringing aside to the people that to each party that brings balance. But you can't do that if they don't trust you and they don't feel calm and relaxed and at a baseline emotional level, right? Because we all know that you can't process experiences or anything else if you're in a high emotional state, whether good or bad. Also, as far as an influential process, I think it's important to, not that I'm a devil's advocate or anything else, but I think it's important to always challenge the status quo and know that, life, people, plants, animals, us, elements, the earth, everything is a continuous process, right? And evolving. And it's been proven time and time again that if you don't, sticking to one thing all the time isn't always the best thing, So being okay with change and, even, especially as a leader, is realizing, that we also bring things into the picture, such as ego and things like that, which, we have to remember this all pretty much falls back on the golden rule, right? Because the whole, if you wouldn't want it done to you, why do it to somebody else, right? I think that's really important to think about. So as far as leadership, I've always been a really firm and big believer that we accomplish more together, there's plenty enough resources for us to go around. Our planet, our universe is abundant. There's plenty enough if we can just share, be respectful, and find balance, right? Be willing to lead and follow, right? Again, group and everything is a continuous process. And there's, again, we have to be able to step back and know when somebody would be better off taking those leads or reins. Also, every organism it takes all of the parts to function effectively and together with balance for that organism to live and thrive and be productive. Whether it's a cell, whether it's an organ, whether it's our entire body, whether it's our family, whether it's our organization, whether it's our nation or humanity or the whole entire universe as a whole, right? That's why it's important to recognize, that it's going to take all of us working together. If we try to hoard and take more than what is needed for us and not share others are going to do that as well. And then we're going to have that lack of balance and people's needs aren't going to be met, That means, there's not going to be a balance of give and take, and we need each other to come together to function. That's super important. Without that, we're going to have imbalance. Which with that imbalance comes disease, dysfunction, breaking down, whether it's a group, society, or nation, the world, humanity. With that breaking down, people become fearful, and then they're acting out of fear. And we all know that nobody benefits. Ziggy Marley says it. Love is our religion, right? Love powers the world, and fear and all of that's not ever going to help anything. Also, that fear can lead to people just not trusting one another, as well as self-preservation, right? So then people start doing things where they're going to do whatever they need, the whole survival of the fittest type of thing. So, as far as myself, I think that less laws and more choice are better off. Not for the sense that I'm against laws, because I know and understand that we need people for public safety, and to keep people safe. But monitoring and everything having to be outlined in laws and policies shouldn't even be needed, because we should be able to have a good moral and internal compass to not even need that stuff. This makes me, I think with less laws comes more personal responsibility. And, with that comes, again, that character building. People who, I like to think this back to a show I used to watch when I was younger, Little House on the Prairie, right? It makes me think of these days, where you have the village and the houses are spread out, and you have one person has the bread and one person has the, the milk, and then the other person has the hay for the animals, and, and all of this, and everybody came together and they traded through a barter system. I mean, ideally, we should be able to do that. Again, that just goes back with all the resources are there. When some people will just retaliate just because they're being told not to do something and things like that. So I feel like with less laws and more responsibility, if people are acting, in shady ways, or they're taking more than they're giving, or they're doing things that are wrong, we don't need laws or jail. The community, I know me, myself, I don't want to be around people that, do dirty to other people, or, are selfish, or around dealing drugs and killing people and all that stuff, because I understand that I am who I surround myself with, right? It's important to be able to recognize that and understand that if people aren't in trouble, and if people know about what these people go out and do to other people, people aren't going to want to do business with them. And then eventually all those people who are selfish and greedy and want to hurt others, I mean, not that I want to bring religion into it, because I pray for them too, because everybody needs healing, and I think that everybody is the way they are for a reason. But sometimes maybe getting all of them together and getting that mirror in their face due to being shunned, say, by everybody else for their illegal, unethical, and harmful behaviors, right, can really do more than the law ever could. Then it's like, okay, I'm out here. What am I going to do? I can't get my resources now because people don't trust me and they won't give me a good job because I have been dishonest, or I cheated, or, I sold them a faulty product and things like that. Luckily, with technology, it can be good and bad, because it does allow us to let people know who do stuff like this, right? The whole thing is you never want to expect anybody to be perfect, because nobody ever is, but it's the people who will hide it that you have to be a little bit more concerned about. I know me personally, I've had some good jobs and I've had some lie detector tests and things like that. And I personally feel like if we can give lie detector tests to FBI agents and different, people. Why wouldn't we want to do it to our politicians, right? Let's put the truth out there on the table. Yeah, they're not admissible in court, but they could be a really great tool. And I know me personally, I'd rather vote for somebody who owns their stuff and is just like, hey man, I made mistakes. Yes, this has happened, but this is how I could take that and make the world around me a better place or something like that, right? Always better off. Now, as far as leaders that I admire, I thought it was kind of a cool thing to think about because we had to do that for our activity this week in class. But I'm going to share the leaders that I think are pretty awesome, some of the main ones. First is Oprah. I think definitely as a Black woman growing up in the time that she did and going through all of her trauma and everything else, that she had every brick and blocks thrown at her and set against her, and she took all of that and became one of the most amazing women and really involved in a lot of really great social change for others. So definitely gotta put her on there. As far as spiritual gurus and teachers, as well as, teaching worldly as well as intrinsic wisdom, I would definitely have to say Carl Jung and Dr. Wayne Dyer. Both of them are fantastic and definitely has nothing to do with religion, but definitely a lot of great practices and philosophies to live by. God, of course, definitely have to put God on there because, he's the one who helps us with grace and forgiveness, right? So definitely have to keep them on there. Princess Di, because, she was in the public eye and she went through the split with, Prince Charles and all of that and him cheating with whatever her name is. And she still went out, she used her time, she went out and did mission work with the kids in Africa, and she just held herself so high with class and grace. And she's just was a true light and beacon for just a lot of women and people in general around all of that, as well as the good humanitarian work she did while she was here. That's pretty cool though too, because people like that, when they do pass away, those legacies never die, and that's proof to me of goodness. John Lennon has to feed America, and he's been gone how long now, and he still feeds all these people, right? And that is proof to me of goodness and integrity, right? Another leader as far as professionally, definitely have to say Robert Grant. He's definitely super smart. I try to grasp all this stuff he talks about sometimes, but it's the math is definitely not my thing. I love science, but as far as business, he's amazing, and he takes all of that and teaches others and creates new leaders. And instead of following his path, which could probably make him even he's already if you're familiar with him, he's probably already well off anyway, but he could probably be 20 times more if he wouldn't have chose a humble path and to continue to learn and share that knowledge with others. So definitely cool. Business as well as Richard Branson. I did a paper for my bachelor's like 10 years ago on him, and I absolutely adore him because he does all of these great projects. He's a lead. I love leaders that create more leaders, but he takes his money, his time, his resources, his leaders, and he just spreads them out. And that one leader makes 10 more leaders and 10 more projects, and he just gets bigger and grows. And I just love that. I think he's awesome. Missy Elliott, got to throw her in there because I didn't know this, but I learned this maybe 7 or 8 years ago. When she wrote so many major hip hop artists and R&B singers music for so long, and she was writing and writing and writing, and she wanted to get out and start making her own music. And when she got out there, at first, she was basically rejected by the producers because they wanted her to change her style. She had kind of like that hip hop tomboy kind of flair, which I liked it personally, but they wanted her to become dressed a certain way, act a different way, and just become more sexualized. And I absolutely love that she said no. She continued writing, she continued doing her thing, and then eventually she broke out to music and is freaking an awesome artist, right? So definitely an awesome role model. I share that with the kids in school or in juvie and things like that. Einstein, gotta put him on there because I think some people sometimes think I'm a little goofy or crazy, and everybody thought he was crazy, but he was a complete genius and he just owned it. So I loved him. And then lastly, Abraham Lincoln. Loved him because he was the president. he never would have had to step foot into anything. And he chose, when stuff hit the fan, to go down there and fight with his soldiers. He didn't send them out, run with his family, hide up in some bunker. He fought with them. And that to me is an awesome leader. So now we're going to talk about the difference between managers and leaders, right? I look at it kind of as managing is doing and leading is being. First off, I'd like to say we definitely need both, right? Because both have authority and influence. So, and we need both, and we need both types, right? We're not one way is going to work. Actually, I'm going to share a story. So when I started in juvie placement, I'm awesome with crisis. So during school coverage, they paired me with somebody who was very authoritarian. My father was authoritarian, so I was like, I was so nurturing and kind. I would run behind the kids when they would run from there for 2 miles, and finally I'd talk them into stopping instead of just throwing the iron fist. But as long as they were safe, by the way. But at first it was really difficult because we would do our huddles and we get the kids together and address these behaviors. He was very firm. But what I quickly realized is actually he taught me some of the most greatest lessons, because he brought balance to me, being able to hear how his, how he handled the kids. Some kids not good with, his methods. Others, they were so, and I quickly realized, wow, my way is not going to work for every kid, and his way is not going to work for every kid. So, being able to work with him, I really learned to admire, and he was a genius, and he was really great with those kids. And honestly, those kids where, he was super authoritative with at first, those are the kids with homes who came from homes who were able to do anything and got away with it. So they really needed that, and that structure was important, right? So it was definitely eye-opening. Managers oversees people, projects, systems, structures, organizations to be sure tasks are carried out and goals are accomplished, right? So that's a manager, right? We're going to set up a plan, we're going to do this, we're going to make sure it happens, and we're going to evaluate the people and make sure they're good, right? Managers also have to be sure that things are carried out in a preferred way based on predetermined standards, criteria, or expectations. Now, I know me, myself personally, I'm more of a free spirit. I don't do real good with hierarchy and structure, which is pretty crazy because I work with the VA, which I think is a great organization, by the way. But I'm not used to that. Where I go from, we all come to the table, we think, we collaborate, we figure it out together. So I'm kind of struggling in that environment. But again, I also notice that where I struggle, that's probably where I need to be at, because I probably could use a little more of that. Another thing with managing is people tend to conform to what others tell them to do, basically. This can lead to staticness within people and within organizations, right? Because if you're going in somewhere and you're performing like a robot every day, how is anybody going to ever evolve? Yeah, you might be getting stuff accomplished or done, but while you continuous on that same robot and revolving door, there's other countries, groups, people that are, learning, evolving, growing, with the times, which is what everybody should be striving to do. Also, challenging the status quo, I think, is important, not always, but but not even challenging the status quo, but just talking about it, right? And not talking about it with people that are just like you, right? We need to hear different sides to be able to get more balanced. Also, for those of you who like, the hierarchy and the structure and managing and making sure that people conform to your ways of thinking, or, maybe you side with a specific, group or political party or whatever, what would make you think that what you want, your opinion, your views, your way of doing things, why would you think that everybody else should do it your way and not care about that everybody else shouldn't do it their way? Come on, that's just not logical. That is egotistical, selfish, greedy. If you're expecting everybody to be and do just like you, that's very closed-minded, and you're living a very sheltered and stagnant life, really. leadership, we always have to keep moving forward, so managing is important. We have to create those goals, and follow those goals and make sure everything is followed through. However, I do think leadership is just as important, and a good leader knows its people and it's able to I always like a leader who doesn't have a stake in it. I always say I work with veterans. I don't have a veteran in my family. I'm not married to one. I'm not one, and I'm passionate about serving them because I've been in the system. I see, the things that happen, and they deserve, much more than really what we give or do for them. So in my book, they mentioned there's a saying. That saying says that managers are people who do things right. Managers are people who do things right, whereas leaders are people who do the right thing. I thought this was pretty cool to just throw that out there and to just do a little bit of insight, because it's important to realize sometimes you got to think about, do I want to be right? Do I want to stick to standards? Or do I want to try to do the right thing, not just for myself or my group, but for everybody? And I think it's important to think about that. The only way that we're going to grow stronger and to understand is to experience different things and different people, right? Go into a different religious affiliation, or even just reading a little bit up about it and understanding different cultures. And, if you are, Democrat, go to a Republican meetup, talk to these people. I think a lot of people are like, oh no, I don't want to do that, right? But do you want to be reactive or do you want to be proactive? And proactive means going out there and putting yourself in situations that are very uncomfortable and out of your comfort zone and learning something new, right? But learning is I feel like is the elixir of life, right? The whole alchemy. So with all that being said, I definitely feel like, I hope everybody is able to work better off together and think about other people's perspectives and again, just take into consideration. I know when it comes to groups, I look at it like this. Joining a specific group, foundation, or whatever, if it is separating you from the majority, then that is basically placing judgment, priority, privilege, that kind of thing. I look at it like this: rather than join one, I join them all, right? Why not be able to engage with all of it? I feel like that is where, and I'm not trying to preach anything political, but I definitely feel like I'm an independent libertarian, and not because I'm against the government or anything like that, but because I think, that we need more personal responsibility. I think that, churches and people coming together can do sometimes a lot better than these programs that are out there and things like that. So definitely, no, we need our first responders and military and everything. So, but I definitely feel like as a libertarian, I know everybody that I've ever met that was libertarian. And by the way, a lot of them were in the government and actually work for the government. So, but I feel like we connect with them all, right? We don't join one, we join them all. And I know kind of by labeling it in a group as libertarian, you may feel like it's separating, but I don't look at it that way, because a libertarian views, they appreciate, understand, and take into consideration everybody, right? Not just you. So with that being said, I hope everybody enjoyed the talk, and I feel free to reach out if you have any questions or you'd like to connect further. So take care. God bless.